Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Ayush Chatterjee, Medical College, Kolkata. Today I am going to discuss about the clinical applications of extraocular muscle actions. In one of my previous videos, I had talked about the extraocular muscle actions and showed how the muscles bring about different movements of the eyeball. So today I am going to focus on the clinical applications of these muscles. Clinically, the extraocular muscle actions are tested to examine the cranial nerves which supply these muscles. So the main three cranial nerves which are involved are the fourth, the trochlear nerve, the sixth or the abducent nerve, and the third or the oculomotor nerve. The trochlear nerve supplies the superior oblique muscle. The abducens nerve supply the lateral rectus muscle, and the oculomotor nerve supplies the rest of the extraocular muscles, which are the inferior oblique muscle, the superior rectus muscle, the medial rectus muscle, and the inferior rectus muscle, and also it supplies the levator palpebris superioris. Now, if the trochlear nerve is injured, then there will be paralysis of the superior oblique muscle, and if there is paralysis of the abducent or the sixth nerve, then there will be loss of abduction of the eyeball, and as a result there will be medial squint. Similarly, if there is injury of the third or the oculomotor nerve, then the main symptom which we will notice is that the pupil points downwards and laterally. This is because in injury of oculomotor nerve, the inferior oblique, the medial rectus, the superior rectus, and the inferior rectus will all get paralyzed. So the only actively working muscles will be the lateral rectus and the superior oblique. So by their joint action, the pupil would point the pupil will point downwards and laterally. Now, how clinically the muscles are tested. So here given is a diagram of how the examiner asks the subject to look in different directions in order to test for different muscles or the different extraocular muscles. Now this diagram seems a little different from the previous one shown here. This is because actually in clinical examination the subject is asked to look along the lines shown by the black arrow. That is, instead of looking directly up and out, he is asked to look first out and then up. Instead of looking out and in, he is asked to look out and then in, and similarly on the other side. So this is the actual path which the examiner asked the subject to follow, and not this shown by the red lines. So how do they work? First, let us take the example of the superior rectus and the inferior rectus. To test the superior rectus and the inferior rectus, first the examiner asks the subject to abduct his eyeball, and then if the eyeball is abducted, in that case if the eyeball is abducted, that is, it is turned towards this side, then the whole frame or the whole axis shifts towards the lateral side. And mind it that here I am talking only about the right eye, and things will be exactly opposite for the left eye. So in abduction, the whole axis or the plane will be shifted towards the lateral side. As a result, the muscles which bring about the actions, that is mainly the actions of the eyeball towards the lateral side, that is the inferior oblique, the lateral rectus and the superior oblique. These muscles will not be able to act in this position, and the only active muscles left will be the superior rectus, the medial rectus and the inferior rectus. Now coming back, so we see that in abduction the muscles that are active are the superior rectus, the inferior rectus and the medial rectus. So in this condition, if the superior rectus contracts, then the eyeball will move upwards, and if the inferior rectus contracts, then the eyeball will move downwards. And if the medial rectus contracts, then the eyeball will just move back to its original position. So we see that in abduction, two muscles acting are the superior rectus and the inferior rectus, and if they contract, then they elevate and depress the eyeball respectively. Now coming to the example of inferior oblique and superior oblique. For this, the examiner asks the subject to adduct the eyeball. Similarly, again coming back to the previous example, now in case of adduction, the eyeball will turn towards the medial side, and again the muscles which mainly act to turn the eyeball towards the medial side, actions towards the medial side, that is the superior rectus, the medial rectus and the inferior rectus, will not be able to act in the adducted position, and the entire axis shifts towards the medial side, and the active muscles left will be the inferior oblique, the superior oblique and the lateral rectus. So in the adducted position, the acting muscles will be the inferior oblique, the superior oblique and the lateral rectus. So when the inferior oblique contracts, then it pulls the eyeball upwards, and when the superior oblique contracts, then it pulls the eyeball downwards. Therefore we see that when the eyeball is adducted, that is it is turned medially, then the active or the acting muscles are the inferior oblique and the superior oblique, and when the inferior oblique acts, it elevates the eyeball in that position, and when the superior oblique acts, then it depresses the eyeball in that position. So this is how we get the positions in which during clinical tests the eyeball is asked to move. That is, for testing the superior rectus, it is asked to move upwards and laterally, for inferior rectus downwards and laterally, for inferior oblique upwards and medially, for superior oblique downwards and medially, and the normal conventional for medial rectus to turn medially, for lateral rectus laterally. Now why are these muscles tested in this way? Why go in this indirect way? To understand this, we have to let us take the example of the superior oblique muscles, and the rest of the muscles will be understood from this example. So this indirect way is applied in order to isolate the muscle to be tested. That is, if suppose the examiner is testing for the superior oblique muscle, and he asks the subject to just normally look upwards and laterally, because this is what the superior oblique does, it turns the eyeball upwards and laterally. But if the subject has an injury in the superior oblique, injury in the trochlear nerve which causes paralysis in the superior oblique, then also he will be able to turn his eyeballs upwards and laterally by first abducting it and then elevating with the help of the superior rectus. But it will seem to the examiner that the subject can perform this maneuver, while in the real case his superior oblique is paralyzed and he is performing this action with the help of lateral rectus and superior rectus. So to avoid this confusion, the eyeballs are moved in such a position that only the muscles to be tested are isolated and no other muscles can function. So in this case, to test the superior oblique, the examiner asks the subject to adduct his eyeball, that is to look medially. And in this condition, as we have seen, that the superior rectus cannot act, because in the adducted eye the axis shifts towards the medial side, and since the superior rectus in normal position turns the eyeball upwards and medially, it is not able to act in the adducted eye. And here now we get only the superior oblique which can turn the eyeball upwards. So this is how the examiner isolate the muscle and then test them. So I hope this video has been help to you all, and please like and subscribe this channel and share this video with your friends or any other brothers or sisters who are pursuing this field, and help me sharing this knowledge. Nevertheless, thank you for watching this video, and I will be soon back with another new video. Until then, have fun, stay safe.